Hey, all. Welcome to another episode of the Cruise News you can use for this Friday, and the 1st of December. Happy December. First up, we got some good news in a way. So, the Atlantic hurricane season is officially over, finally. It was a pretty eventful year, hurricane season wise, especially compared to last year. So, we had there were 20 officially named storms, so 20 storms that got up to the requirements to be named. Included 7 hurricanes, 3 of which were considered major hurricanes. Those 20 storms accounted for numerous itinerary changes, route changes, plan changes, when it comes to cruise ships. The upside was that there are several new weather technologies that were in use this year that aided the cruise lines in changing their routes, changing their port of calls ahead of time, so that the ships didn't um, have to sail through the storm as much. They were able to avoid the choppy weather, the rough weather. So the passengers on board their ships were able to enjoy the cruise more, cruise enjoy the cruise, even though there were storms in their area. The captains were able to avoid them. They got more advanced notice and more accurate prediction, I guess you would call it. But luckily, that's over, which is perfect timing considering the Caribbean winter sailing season is just beginning and ramping up to be a very, very busy one, as usual. So yeah, I'm glad that's over with. Hopefully there'll be less port changes than there were over the last couple of months. Next up, Carnival delivers supplies to schools in Mexico. So the Carnival Valor was just on a 5-night cruise, and they stopped in Mexico, and through a partnership with Rotary International, they were able to deliver 6 tons of supplies to Merida and Progreso, Mexico. It included books, feminine hygiene kits, and even some soccer balls to the communities. This is an ongoing partnership between Carnival and Rotary International. Earlier this year, they delivered a different Carnival ship delivered supplies to Cozumel, Mexico, and Roatan, Honduras. So, big shout out to Carnival and to Rotary International for undertaking the delivery of those supplies. Well, Rotary for putting together the supplies and Carnival for delivering them. That's always a good thing. Now, the time of the show where I ask you to like, comment, and subscribe. You know what to do. I'm not going to belabor the point again. So, P&O, this poor P&O ship. So the Pacific, oh goodness gracious, Pacific Adventure. The P&O ship that started a Kiwi Adventure 13-night cruise out of Sydney back on the 20th of November. They were supposed to have 7. I talked about this a couple of days ago, but they were originally going to do 7 ports in New Zealand. Well, they failed. They failed a biosecurity test multiple times, something that the New Zealand government requires. Basically, the hull of the ship needs to be clean of parasites and any foreign matter before they enter New Zealand waters. Well, unfortunately, as I already reported, they couldn't meet that standard, so they were refused admission to New Zealand. So P&O had to scramble and put together a list of other ports to substitute. And well, one of the replacement ports was Port Arthur. And well, they went to dock in Port Arthur, and the winds were I want to say roughly 26 miles per hour, a little bit too too high, too high winds for them to dock safely. So they ended up missing Port Arthur. So now let's hope that the guests on board can enjoy their last port of call, Eden, Eden, Australia, which I believe they're supposed to port in today. That ship's due to return to Sydney and disembark its passengers on the 3rd. And at this point, I don't even know how I would feel if I was a passenger. It like comedy of errors, pissed off, grateful it's over. I don't even know. It's just like one disappointment after another disappointment after another. That was wow. I feel bad for those passengers. So last up, a story that's a little bit closer to home geographically. So Key West, the future of cruising in Key West is currently in the hands of Florida Governor DeSantis. So if you remember back in, I don't remember if it was 2020 or 2021, the residents of Key West passed a ballot on their local government. Basically, they passed a law in the local government limiting the size of the ships that were allowed in port and the number of guests that were allowed to come on shore per day. In Key West, they have a lot of concerns about the local coral reefs and the cruise ships, the draft, and basically the cruise ships through a series of events could harm the underwater fauna, the coral reefs. Well, so they passed that, and then in 2021, the state legislature overturned it, stating that no local government has the authority to determine maritime commerce requirements, limitations, things like that. Basically, the legislature said that's a state level decision, not a local level decision. And so now Mark Walsh, who is the hotelier who I'm not even sure how he has jurisdiction, but basically he has requested permission to expand the port so that they could, we bring in more ships and larger ships into the port. And Governor DeSantis and his cabinet are supposed to rule on that request this month in December of 2023. So curious to see how that goes, because Governor DeSantis is kind of in a pickle a little bit, because he has publicly stated how sensitive he is to the idea of harming the coral, harming the underwater fauna in and around Florida. And at the same time, he has stated that he agrees that the decision about any maritime commerce belongs at the state level. So now plus, honestly, Mark Walsh is a huge contributor to his gubernatorial election campaign. He's kind of in a pickle. Be interesting to see how that all plays out. That's about it for me. I hope you have a good rest of your day.